The fluorescent lights inside the Walmart cast everything in that sickly yellow glow that makes midnight feel like the end of the world. I'm crouched behind a police cruiser, watching the windows, counting shadows. 12 people inside. Hostage situation gone wrong. What started as a robbery turned into something else when the sirens got too close, too fast. "Snipers down," Officer Martinez whispers into his radio blood, seeping through the gauze I'd wrapped around his shoulder 20 minutes ago. Ricochet caught him in the chest. He's breathing, but he's done. I adjust my grip on the medical kit. I'm here as support combat medic with the Virginia National Guard, called in to assist with casualties. That's it? That's supposed to be it. But I can see what the others can't from this angle. Second floor window, northwest corner. Janitorial closet, probably. Clean line of sight straight down into the main aisle where he's holding them. The man inside has been pacing for 40 minutes. Semi-automatic rifle. Demands that keep changing. 3 kids in there, including one maybe 6 years old who keeps crying for her mom. Backup's still 30 minutes out, the junior officer Thompson, I think, says. His voice cracks on the word minutes. I close my eyes and do the math. Wind's barely a factor at this distance. 47 yards. Slight downward angle. I ran these calculations in my sleep for 18 months of training. There's another option, I say quietly. Martinez looks at me. Carter, your medical support. I'm also cross-trained. I tap the case beside my medical kit. M110 semi-automatic sniper system. Current qualification expert marksman. I've got clean line of sight from the second floor of that office depot across the street. The silence stretches. Inside the store, I can hear him yelling again. Something about how they left him no choice. Thompson's radio crackles. Any unit with tactical capability, please respond. Suspect is becoming increasingly agitated. We have visual on at least 3 minors in immediate proximity. I stand up. That's my green light. Carter. 30 minutes is 30 minutes too long, I say, already moving toward my rifle case. I have the shot, I have the training, and I have 12 people in there who don't have 30 minutes. The office depot's service door was left unlocked when they evacuated the strip mall. I take the stairs 2 at a time, muscle memory from basic training kicking in. Find the window, check the angle. Perfect. I set up fast. Bipod deployed, scope adjusted. I can see him clearly now, white male, maybe 35, pacing in front of the customer service desk. The hostages are on the floor behind him, hands zip-tied. The little girl is still crying. My radio crackles. Carter, do you have visual? Poo. Confirmed, clear shot. You are authorized to engage when ready. I breathe in. Let half of it out. Hold. This is what they don't tell you about the moment before you pull the trigger. It's not dramatic. There's no music, no slow motion, no final doubt. There's just breath control and mathematics. The man stops pacing, turns toward the hostages, raises his rifle. I squeeze. The rifle kicks against my shoulder. Through the scope, I watch him drop. Clean. Immediate. Target down, I report. Hostages appear unharmed. The SWAT team moves in. I pack up my rifle, sling it over my shoulder, and head back downstairs. By the time I reach the parking lot, they're already bringing people out. The little girl runs straight to a woman who must be her mother. The crying stops. Officer Martinez is waiting by my vehicle. Hell of a shot, Carter. I'm loading my gear when I hear the phones. Camera phones, video phones. Everyone who witnessed it, everyone who heard it on the radio, everyone who got here in time to see me walk out of that building with a smoking rifle. A reporter shoves a microphone in my face. Can you tell us your name? I look directly into the camera. For once in my life, I don't look away. My name is Alyssa Carter, and I wasn't supposed to be here. According to my family, I should have quit in a week. I close the trunk of my Jeep and drive home through empty streets, knowing that everything just changed. Knowing that everyone who ever doubted me is about to find out exactly who they were wrong about. I'm Alyssa Carter, 31 years old, youngest daughter, forgotten middle child when my brother is home, invisible shadow when my sister is around. That's who I was before tonight anyway. Growing up in the Carter house meant learning your place early. My brother Jake got the spotlight high school quarterback, then Richmond PD. My sister Rebecca got the attention homecoming queen marketing executive Instagram influencer, with 12,000 followers who document her perfect life in filtered squares. I got the leftovers, the quiet corner at family dinners, the understanding nod when someone needed something done but didn't want to ask the important children. I became a nurse because that's what quiet girls do. We help, we fix, we clean up messes and ask for nothing in return. 12-hour shifts at Richmond General, coming home to an empty apartment, microwave dinners, and the sound of my own breathing. When Dad had his gallbladder surgery 3 years ago, guess who took 2 weeks off work to stay at the house? Not Jake, who was swamped with cases. Not Rebecca, who had a crucial product launch. Me, always me. I slept on that same couch I'd claimed as a teenager, the one that sagged in the middle and smelled like Mom's lavender fabric softener. I measured out his medications, helped him to the bathroom, made sure he ate something besides saltines and ginger ale. "You're good at this," he said one afternoon, watching me reorganize his pill bottles. Taking care of people. I wanted to ask him who was taking care of me. Instead, I smiled and asked if he needed more ice water. The Army National Guard recruiting station sits in a strip mall between a nail salon and a GameStop. I drove past it for 6 months before I finally pulled into the parking lot. Not because I wanted to be a soldier. Not because I believed in some greater cause. Because I needed something that was mine. The recruiter, Staff Sergeant Williams, was younger than me. Probably saw hundreds of people who thought military service would fix whatever was broken in their civilian lives. "What made you decide to come in today?" he asked. I could have told him about the family dinner 2 weeks earlier where Jake spent 20 minutes talking about his latest arrest while Rebecca live-tweeted her reactions to some reality show. Where I sat at the same table and somehow still felt like I was eating alone. Instead, I said, "I want to serve." He nodded like that was enough. Maybe it was. The enlistment papers felt heavier than they should have. Medical occupational specialty, 68W combat medic. Close enough to nursing that I could justify it to myself, different enough that it felt like stepping into someone else's life. I signed my name at the bottom and felt something shift in my chest. Something that had been holding its breath for 31 years. The night I told them we were all gathered in the living room after Sunday dinner. Jake was scrolling through his phone. Rebecca was editing photos from her latest sponsored post about athleisure wear. "I enlisted," I said. The silence stretched long enough for the wall clock to tick 5 times. Then Jake laughed. Actually laughed like I'd told the funniest joke he'd heard all year. "You in the Army." "National Guard," I corrected. Same difference. Rebecca looked up from her phone. "Aren't you a little old for a midlife crisis?" Dad set down his beer. "Alyssa, sweetheart, you've never even been camping." "It's not camping," I said. "You cried during Saving Private Ryan," Rebecca added. "How are you going to handle basic training?" I wanted to tell them that I'd watched worse things during night shifts in the ER, that I'd held pressure on gunshot wounds while families screamed in the hallway. That maybe, just maybe, I was stronger than the convenient version of me they'd constructed. Instead, I excused myself and went upstairs. 2 weeks later, I went to the Army surplus store and bought my first pair of combat boots. Size 7 black leather, still stiff from the box. When I got home, Rebecca was visiting. She saw the bag and started laughing before I could even take the boots out. "Oh my God, are you serious with this?" I laced them up right there in the kitchen. They felt solid, substantial, like they could carry me somewhere these people had never been. "Very serious," I said. Jake shook his head. "You'll quit in a week." I walked upstairs in those boots, letting them echo on every step. I was wrong about one thing, though. They didn't laugh when I showed them the enlistment papers. They laughed harder when I bought the boots. The night I told them I was actually shipping out, Dad was 3 beers deep and watching some war documentary on the History Channel. The irony wasn't lost on me. Him sitting there in his faded Army t-shirt, analyzing tactics from his recliner, while dismissing his own daughter's decision to serve. "So when do you leave?" Mom asked, not looking up from her crossword puzzle. 2 weeks, Fort Leonard Wood, Missouri. Dad turned away from the TV for the first time all evening. "Fort Lost in the Woods," he said with a snort. "That's where they break the weak ones early." He'd been an MP back in the day, military police. 22 years of service, 2 deployments, and a chest full of medals gathering dust in the hall closet. You'd think that would make him understand. Instead, it seemed to make him more certain that I didn't belong. "You know what basic training is, right?" He took another sip of his Budweiser. It's not summer camp. They're going to scream in your face until you cry. I won't cry, I said. Jake looked up from his phone. You cried when they canceled your nursing show. That was different. Was it? Dad leaned forward in his chair. Because from where I'm sitting, you've spent 31 years being soft. And the Army doesn't make exceptions for soft. The word hit like he meant it to. Soft. Like that was the worst thing you could be. Maybe I'm not as soft as you think. Dad laughed into his drink. You in uniform, you'll fold in 3 days. Mark my words. I wanted to remind him that I'd worked trauma shifts where I'd seen more blood in one night than some soldiers see in a deployment. I wanted to tell him about the overdose cases, the domestic violence victims, the car accident scenes, where I'd held someone's life together with my bare hands while paramedics fought through traffic. Instead, I went upstairs and packed. The next morning, Rebecca's Instagram story made everything clear. A photo of my combat boots sitting by the front door with text overlay. Guess who's having a late life crisis? Course sisterly love. Hoprit no Army phase. 43 people liked it within an hour. Jake's contribution came via text message over the next few days. YouTube links with titles like Military Training Fails Compilation and Female Soldiers Quitting Basic Training. Each one came with a message. Thought you should see what you're getting into, or still time to change your mind. The worst part wasn't the videos themselves. It was the fact that he'd taken time out of his day to search for them, to curate a collection of failures and send them to me with the precision of someone who wanted to be sure I understood my place. 2 weeks later, I loaded my duffel bag into my Jeep at 5 a.m. The house was dark. Everyone was asleep. I'd imagined this moment differently when I was a kid. Family gathered on the porch, maybe some tears, definitely some pride. Dad in his dress uniform passing down some piece of wisdom from his service days. Mom taking pictures to show the neighbors. Instead, I backed out of the driveway in silence and drove to the Richmond airport with NPR playing softly on the radio. At the gate, I watched other recruits saying goodbye to their families. Mothers crying, fathers shaking hands with their sons, girlfriends promising to write every day. A kid who couldn't be older than 18 got blessed by what looked like his entire extended family, complete with a priest making the sign of the cross over his forehead. I sat by myself and ate a breakfast sandwich that tasted like cardboard. My phone buzzed once during the wait. A text from Mom, safe travels, call when you can. Nothing from Dad, nothing from Jake. Rebecca had posted 3 more Instagram stories since I left, all about her morning yoga routine. On the plane wedged between a businessman and a college student going home for spring break, I realized something that should have been obvious from the beginning. They didn't want me to fail. They needed me to. My failure would prove that the quiet girl belonged in the quiet corner, that the helper should stick to helping, that some people are born to serve others and some people are born to be served. My success would upset the careful balance they'd built around my smallness. As Missouri farmland spread out below us, I understood that I wasn't just enlisting in the Army. I was enlisting in a war they'd declared on me the moment I stopped asking for permission to take up space. The plane touched down in St. Louis, and I collected my bag from the overhead compartment. Around me, other recruits were checking their phones one last time, reading final messages of encouragement from people who believed in them. I turned my phone off and slipped it into my pocket. For the first time in my life, I was going somewhere they couldn't follow, somewhere their opinions would carry exactly as much weight as they'd always given mine. None at all. The bus to Fort Leonard Wood was already waiting outside baggage claim exhaust visible in the cold March air. I climbed the steps and found an empty seat near the back. In 12 weeks, I'd either prove them right or prove them wrong. For the first time since I'd signed those enlistment papers, I was pretty sure I knew which one it was going to be. Fort Leonard Wood in March feels like the end of the world wrapped in Missouri mud and seasoned with drill sergeants screaming. I'm 31 years old in a platoon where most recruits are barely 19. They call me ma'am until the drill sergeants beat that courtesy out of them, replacing it with Carter, barked like a curse word. The first week breaks half the platoon. Kids who thought they were tough discover muscles they didn't know existed. The second week breaks most of the rest. By week 3, we're down to the ones who are too stubborn to quit and too afraid of going home to give up. I fall into neither category. I collapse during the 3rd week of physical training. Face first into Missouri mud during a 5-mile run, my legs simply deciding they're done with this whole experiment. The kid next to me, Thompson from Tennessee, all 18 years old, and corn-fed confidence, helps me to my feet. You okay, Carter? I'm not okay. I'm 31, and my body is reminding me of every soft year I spent behind a nurse's station instead of a gym membership. But I nod and keep running. That night, I vomit behind the barracks until there's nothing left but bile and the taste of my own failure. Private Williams from my bay finds me there dry heaving into the darkness. Drill Sergeant Mason is calling you the medic who can't keep up, she says, not unkindly. I wipe my mouth with the back of my hand. Good to know. You don't have to prove anything to anybody. Yes, I say, standing up on legs that feel like they're made of wet concrete. I do. The range becomes my salvation and my secret shame. During the day, I'm mediocre at best. My groupings are acceptable, my timing average. Drill Sergeant Mason marks my scores with the enthusiasm of someone documenting expected failure. But after lights out, when the rest of the platoon is unconscious on their bunks, I slip out through the fire exit and make my way to the range. The night guard, Sergeant Collins, pretends not to see me. Maybe he understands something about desperation. Maybe he just doesn't care. In the darkness, with only the range lights and the sound of my own breathing, something changes. The rifle becomes an extension of my hands instead of a foreign object I'm struggling to control. My breathing settles into the rhythm I'd read about, but never felt an out-hold squeeze. The targets stop being targets and become problems with clean mathematical solutions. Distance, wind, angle, heartbeat. I spend hours there, burning through ammunition. I'm not supposed to have access to practicing shots that won't be graded or recorded. Just me and the rifle and the satisfaction of watching holes appear exactly where I intended them to be. After 2 weeks of midnight practice, my daytime scores start improving. Not dramatically, I'm careful not to show too much progress too fast. But enough that Drill Sergeant Mason stops using me as an example of everything wrong with modern recruits. It's Staff Sergeant Reed who notices. She's the female drill sergeant who handles specialized training evaluation, a compact woman with gray-streaked hair and eyes that miss nothing. During week 8, she appears at my shoulder during morning range qualification. Carter. Yes, drill sergeant. Your night guard tells me you've been taking evening walks. My stomach drops. Drill sergeant, I. Shut up and shoot. I shoot. Clean grouping, dead center. Not perfect, but solid. She studies the target through binoculars, then looks at me. Again, I shoot again. Same result. Interesting. She makes a note on her clipboard. Report to Range 7 after chow. Bring your gear. Range 7 is where they test the candidates for advanced marksmanship training. I know this because I've watched the chosen ones disappear there for hours at a time, coming back, with expressions that suggest they've discovered something about themselves they didn't know existed. Staff Sergeant Reed is waiting with 3 other recruits I recognize as the best shooters in our cycle. All male, all younger, all looking at me like I'm lost. Carter's joining us for evaluation, Reed announces. Anyone have a problem with that silence? Good. We're testing for cross-training qualification. Combat medics with advanced marksmanship certification. It's a specialized program you keep your 68W MOS but adds sniper training to your skill set. She hands me a rifle I don't recognize, heavier than the standard M4 with a scope that looks serious enough to require its own security clearance. 500 yards, single shot, take your time. I settle into position, feeling the weight of the rifle, the texture of the grip, the way the scope frames the distant target. Around me, the other candidates are preparing for their shots with the confidence of people who expect to succeed. I think about Jake's YouTube videos, about Dad's certainty that I'd fold in 3 days, about Rebecca's Instagram story documenting my late life crisis. I breathe in, let half of it out, hold. The rifle kicks against my shoulder. Through the scope, I watch the bullet find the center of the target. Again, Reed says, I shoot again, same result. Again, 5 shots, 5 perfect groupings. When I'm finished, Reed studies the target through her binoculars for a long time. The other candidates have finished 2 good shots, respectable groupings, but nothing that looks like mine. Carter, she says finally, walk with me. We move away from the other recruits toward a small observation tower overlooking the range complex. You ever shoot before enlisting? No, drill sergeant. Ever hunt? No, drill sergeant. She stops walking and looks at me directly. Then what the hell was that? I don't know how to explain it. The midnight practice, the way the rifle feels like it belongs in my hands. The mathematical certainty that comes over me when I'm looking through a scope. I don't know, drill sergeant. She nods like that's the answer she expected. You have quiet hands, Carter. That's what makes a sniper. Not the big personalities, not the loud ones who think they're action heroes. The quiet ones who can hold still and think clearly when everything else is chaos. The words hit me in a place I didn't know was waiting for them. You're cross-training for sniper qualification, she continues. Keep your medic specialty, add marksman certification. It's not common, but it's not unheard of. Combat medic who can provide precision fire support when needed. Yes, drill sergeant. This doesn't make you special, she adds. It makes you useful. Don't confuse the two. But as I walk back to the barracks that evening, I realize something has shifted. Not in how others see me, but in how I see myself. For the first time in 31 years, I'm not just the quiet one who helps. I'm the quiet one who hits what she aims at. The distinction feels like everything. I come home on leave after advanced individual training with my combat medic certification sniper, cross-training qualification, and the quiet confidence that comes from discovering you're capable of things you never imagined. The house looks exactly the same. Same beige siding, same overgrown hedges, same crooked mailbox that Dad's been meaning to fix for 3 years. I pull into the driveway behind Rebecca's white BMW and sit for a moment listening to my Jeep's engine tick as it cools. Through the kitchen window, I can see them moving around normal Sunday afternoon life, continuing without any acknowledgement that someone who's been gone for 4 months just came home. Mom opens the door before I can knock. Alyssa. You look... She pauses, searching for the right word. Different. I've lost 15 pounds of softness and gained muscle definition I didn't know was possible. My hair is shorter, my posture straighter, my handshake firmer, but she doesn't say any of that. Healthy, she settles on. You look healthy. Inside, Rebecca is sprawled across the couch with her laptop editing photos from what appears to be a sponsored post about skincare. She looks up when I walk in, gives me a quick smile, and returns to her screen. How's that army thing going? She asks, without looking up. It's going well. That's nice. Jake appears from the kitchen, beer in hand, even though it's barely 2 p.m. Look who made it through boot camp, he says, with the tone of someone surprised by an unexpected outcome. Basic training, I correct automatically. Same thing, he takes a sip. So what now you done with all that? I think about explaining advanced individual training, about the medical certifications, about the specialized marksmanship program that only accepts 12 soldiers per cycle. Instead, I say, I have more training coming up. Huh. He nods like he's processing information that doesn't particularly interest him. Good for you. Dad emerges from his study, still wearing the same faded army t-shirt he had on the day I left. There's my soldier, he says, and for a moment I think this might be different. That maybe proving I could survive basic training earned me something. How was it? As bad as I told you it would be. It was challenging, I bet. He settles into his recliner. You know, I was thinking the other day about when you missed your college graduation. What was that 6 years ago? Still can't believe you worked a double shift instead of walking across that stage. The memory hits like a slap. I'd covered for another nurse whose kid was in the hospital. It seemed like the right thing to do at the time someone needed help, and I could provide it. That was different, I say. Was it because you had a choice then, just like you have choices now? You could have been Dr. Carter by now if you'd stuck with school instead of jumping from one thing to another. I want to tell him that I'm not jumping, that this isn't some quarter-life crisis extended into my 30s, that I found something I'm genuinely good at, something that makes me feel like I'm worth the space I take up in the world. Instead, I ask where I should put my bag. Oh, Mom says, and I catch something in her voice. Your room we've been using it for storage. The guest room is all set up for you, though. The guest room, where visiting relatives sleep when they're passing through town. My old bedroom now houses Christmas decorations, out-of-season clothes, and boxes labeled MISC in my mother's careful handwriting. My desk is covered with Rebecca's old marketing textbooks. My dresser holds Dad's collection of war documentaries on DVD. It's like I was never here at all. At dinner, the conversation flows around me like water around a stone. Jake talks about a domestic violence case he's working. Rebecca shows us her latest collaboration with a jewelry company. Dad gives his analysis of some conflict in the Middle East that he's been following on the news. Nobody asks how I am. Nobody asks what training was like, what I learned, where I'm going next. I sit at the same kitchen table where I ate breakfast before school for 18 years, and somehow I'm still invisible. Pass the salt, Rebecca asks, and I slide it across the table. That's my contribution to the conversation. Salt distribution. After dinner, I help Mom clear the dishes while everyone else drifts back to their usual activities. We work in companionable silence for a few minutes before she speaks. "It's good to have you home," she says. "Is it?" She looks at me sharply. "What do you mean, what?" I think about the guest room, about the storage boxes, where my presence used to be, about sitting through an hour of family conversation without anyone showing the slightest curiosity about the last 4 months of my life. "Nothing," I say. "Just tired." That night, lying in the guest room on sheets that smell like fabric softener instead of memories, I stare at the ceiling and realize something that should have been obvious years ago. I was only part of this family when they needed someone to sit quietly and clap for them. When Jake got promoted, I was there to celebrate. When Rebecca landed her first big client, I was there to take pictures. When Dad had his surgery, I was there to change bandages and measure medications. But when I accomplish something, when I survive training that breaks half the people who attempt it, when I qualified for specialized programs that most soldiers never see, there wasn't even curiosity, let alone celebration. My phone buzzes with a text from Staff Sergeant Alyssa Carter. "Report to Fort Bragg next month for advanced combat medical training. You ready?" I text back, "Ready." Outside my window, the guest room window, I can hear Jake and Dad watching television, their voices carrying through the walls as they debate the merits of some police procedural show. Inside this house, I'm still the quiet girl who passes the salt and asks for nothing. But tomorrow morning, I'll drive back to a world where I'm Staff Sergeant Carter, combat medic, qualified marksman, someone whose skills matter and whose presence makes a difference. The contrast has never been clearer. Neither has my choice. The call comes at 3 a.m. on a Tuesday in September. Hurricane Helene has stalled over the Carolina coast, turning Virginia's eastern counties into a disaster zone of flooded roads and stranded civilians. "Carter, you're up for medical support," Captain Morrison's voice crackles through my phone. "Insulin delivery to evacuation centers. Roads are underwater, but we've got boats." I'm dressed and in my Jeep within 15 minutes, driving through Richmond's empty streets toward the armory. The radio reports sound like something out of a disaster movie. Whole neighborhoods under 6 feet of water, elderly residents trapped in nursing homes, diabetics running out of medication with no way to reach pharmacies. The boat launches from a flooded gas station parking lot. Petty Officer Jenkins from the Coast Guard is running the outboard motor while I'm crouched in the bow with a waterproof medical kit and enough insulin to keep 50 people alive for a week. The water is brown and moving fast, carrying pieces of people's lives, lawn furniture, family photos in plastic frames. A child's bicycle with pink streamers still attached to the handlebars. "First stop is the elementary school," Jenkins shouts over the motor noise. 47 people, including 6 diabetics. We navigate through what used to be a residential neighborhood. Street signs poke up through the water like grave markers. A dog barks from a second-story window, and I make a mental note to radio animal rescue about the location. The elementary school sits on higher ground, its parking lot, now serving as a boat dock for rescue operations. Inside, families huddle on yoga mats and sleeping bags, while volunteers distribute bottled water and granola bars. I find the diabetics quickly. Years of emergency room experience taught me to spot the signs of people managing chronic conditions under stress. Mrs. Patterson, age 73, hasn't had her insulin in 18 hours. Her blood sugar readings make my jaw clench. "I didn't think to grab it when we evacuated," she says, hands shaking as I prepare her injection. "I just grabbed my purse and ran." "You did exactly right," I tell her, swabbing the injection site. "You got yourself to safety. That's what matters." We make 6 more stops over the next 12 hours. Each one is the same people who lost everything but their lives, grateful for medical supplies they can't access any other way. By the time we return to the armory, I'm soaked, exhausted, and oddly energized. Captain Morrison meets us at the dock. "How'd it go, Carter?" "Mission accomplished. All civilians treated and stable." He makes a note on his clipboard. "Jenkins says you kept calm when the boat nearly flipped at the Morrison Street Bridge." I shrug. "Water's just another variable." That night, he writes in my evaluation report, "Displays tactical mindset under stress." Remains focused on mission objectives despite chaotic conditions. Recommend for advanced operational training. I don't see that report until months later, but I feel something shifting in how the other soldiers treat me. Less like the older recruit who got lucky, more like someone they can count on when things go wrong. The border drill happens in November, joint training exercise with Border Patrol designed to simulate drug interdiction scenarios along the Mexican border. We're set up in the desert outside El Paso, practicing coordinated responses to armed smuggling operations. The live fire exercise is supposed to be routine. 12 marksmen from various units shooting at targets representing hostile threats in a hostage scenario. Standard qualification course, but with observers from multiple agencies taking notes. I'm the only woman, the only National Guard, the only one over 25. The targets are positioned at varying distances, some as close as 50 yards, others stretching out to 600. Multiple scenarios, moving targets, stationary threats, behind cover precision shots that require distinguishing between hostiles and civilians. When they call my name, I settle into position with my M110. The desert air is still no wind to factor into calculations. The scope is perfectly zeroed. I run through my breathing routine in out hold. First target stationary hostile at 200 yards, center mass. Second target moving threat at 350 yards. I lead the target squeeze on the exhale. Clean hit. Third target precision shot at 500 yards. Hostile positioned inches from a civilian cutout. I take extra time with this one, adjusting for the slight mirage rising from the heated sand. The bullet finds its mark exactly where I intended. When the scoring is complete, I've outshot all 12 of my male counterparts. Not by a little, by margins that make the observers exchange glances and write longer notes on their clipboards. Sergeant Hayes from Border Patrol approaches me afterward. That was impressive shooting, Carter. You available for specialized assignments? Depends on what you need. Someone who can make precision shots under pressure. Someone who stays calm when everything else is falling apart. I think about Mrs. Patterson in the flooded school trusting me with her life, while hurricane water lapped at the building's foundation. About the boat nearly capsizing while I held the medical supplies above my head. I can do that. He hands me his card. I'll be in touch. 2 months later, I'm back home in Richmond, working a routine drill weekend at the armory. It's a quiet Saturday night equipment maintenance paperwork, the usual administrative tasks that keep a National Guard unit functioning. My phone rings at 11:47 p.m. Carter, this is Captain Morrison. I need you to report to the Richmond Armory immediately. Full tactical gear. What's the situation? Hostage standoff in progress. Local law enforcement is requesting National Guard support for medical assistance. Possible casualties. I'm already reaching for my boots. On my way. Carter, his voice is serious. Bring your rifle. The drive through Richmond's empty streets feels different this time. Not like driving to help flood victims or practice shooting at paper targets. This feels like everything I've trained for is about to matter in ways I can't predict. I pull into the armory parking lot and see emergency vehicles everywhere. Police cruisers, ambulances, a SWAT van with its back doors open. Whatever's happening tonight, it's not a drill. As I load my medical kit and rifle case into my Jeep, I think about Staff Sergeant Reed's words from basic training. You have quiet hands, Carter. That's what makes a sniper. Tonight, I have a feeling I'm about to find out if she was right. The Walmart parking lot looks like a war zone under the sodium lights. Police cruisers form a perimeter around the building, their red and blue strobes painting everything in harsh, shifting colors. I can see the SWAT van positioned near the main entrance officers in tactical gear, moving with the controlled urgency of people who know lives are hanging in the balance. Captain Morrison meets me at my Jeep. Situation started as an armed robbery around 10 p.m. 3 suspects, at least 1 rifle. When patrol units responded, they barricaded themselves inside with civilians. How many hostages? 12 confirmed. Mix of customers and employees. We've got eyes on them through the security cameras, but communications have been sporadic. I grab my medical kit and rifle case. What do you need from me? Medical support for the tactical team. We've already had 1 officer wounded, took a ricochet trying to get a better position. Paramedics stabilized him, but we need someone with combat medical training closer to the action. We move toward the command post set up behind an armored vehicle about 50 yards from the store entrance. The incident commander, a weathered police captain named Williams, is coordinating with SWAT team leaders when we approach. "This is Staff Sergeant Carter," Morrison says. "Combat medic tactical training." Williams barely glances at me. "Good. We've got Officer Martinez with a shoulder wound. Treated and stable, but he's our primary sniper, and he's done for the night." That's when I notice the blood trail leading away from the SWAT position. Through my binoculars, I can see the second-story window where Martinez had been positioned. Shattered glass and bullet holes in the concrete tell the story of a shot gone wrong. What about backup snipers? 45 minutes out, State Police Tactical Team is en route, but we can't wait. Suspect's getting more agitated, and we've got kids in there. As if to emphasize his point, we hear shouting from inside the store, a man's voice angry and desperate, followed by what sounds like crying. I move closer to the SWAT position, treating Martinez's shoulder wound while listening to the radio chatter. The situation is deteriorating. The primary suspect is demanding things that keep changing: money, then a car, then safe passage, then something about his ex-wife and custody. Classic signs of someone who didn't plan this far ahead and is making decisions based on panic rather than strategy. He's positioned himself behind the customer service counter, or Officer Thompson explains, pointing to a tactical map of the store layout. Clear view of all the hostages, good cover from our positions. Martinez was trying to get an angle from the second floor of the strip mall across the street when he took fire. I study the map, then look across the parking lot to the Office Depot building. Second floor windows, clear line of sight into the Walmart. I've done this calculation in training dozens of times. What about that janitorial window? I point to a spot on the map. Northwest corner, second floor. Looks like it would have clean line of sight down into the main floor. Thompson looks where I'm pointing. Maybe, but we don't have anyone qualified to take that shot. Martinez was our guy. I set down my medical kit and reach for my rifle case. I'm qualified. The silence stretches for several seconds. Around us, radios crackle with updates from officers maintaining the perimeter, but here in our small circle, everything has gone quiet. "Your medical support," Williams says finally. "I'm also cross-trained. Advanced marksmanship, tactical shooting, precision fire support." I unlock my rifle case, revealing the M110 I've carried through every exercise, every qualification, every late-night practice session since Staff Sergeant Reed first put it in my hands. Current expert qualification confirmed through 600 yards. Thompson looks at Williams. Williams looks at Morrison. Morrison looks at me. "You sure about this, Carter?" I think about the crying I heard from inside the store, about 12 people who didn't choose to be part of someone else's breakdown, about a little girl whose biggest worry this morning was probably whether she'd remembered her homework. "I'm sure," Williams makes the call. "Do it." The Office Depot's service entrance was left unlocked during the evacuation. I take the stairs 2 at a time, muscle memory from basic training, and months of preparation guiding me through movements I've practiced, but never needed for real. The janitorial window is exactly where I expected it to be. Small, dusty, positioned about 47 yards from the Walmart entrance, with a perfect downward angle into the main floor. I can see everything through my scope. The suspect pacing behind the customer service counter, the hostages on the floor with their hands zip-tied, the tactical officers positioning themselves for entry. And there against the far wall, a little girl who can't be older than 6 still in her school clothes. I set up quickly, bipod deployed, rifle positioned, breathing controlled. Through the scope, I can see the suspect clearly: white male, maybe 35, holding a semi-automatic rifle with the jerky movements of someone running on adrenaline and bad decisions. My radio crackles. "Carter, do you have visual?" "Confirmed. Clear shot on primary suspect." "Hostages." 12 civilians confirmed. Mixed positions, but clear separation from target. "You are cleared to engage when ready." The suspect stops pacing and turns toward the hostages. He's shouting something I can't hear from this distance, but his body language is escalating. The rifle in his hands is no longer pointed at the floor. I breathe in, let half of it out, hold. This is the moment Staff Sergeant Reed prepared me for. Not the mechanics of the shot, those are just math and muscle memory, but the clarity that comes when everything else falls away except the target and the mission. The man raises his rifle toward the hostages. I squeeze the trigger. The M110 kicks against my shoulder with familiar authority. Through the scope, I watch the suspect drop immediately, his rifle clattering across the floor away from his body. Target down, I report into my radio. Hostages appear unharmed. The tactical team moves like they've been waiting for this moment. Through the windows, I can see them entering the store, securing the scene, checking on the civilians. Emergency medical personnel rush in behind them. I pack up my rifle with steady hands, sling it over my shoulder, and head back downstairs. By the time I reach the parking lot, they're already bringing people out. The employees, first young cashiers and older managers, all looking shell-shocked, but walking under their own power. Then the customers, an elderly couple holding hands, a teenager who keeps looking back at the store like he can't believe what just happened. Finally, the families. The little girl I saw through my scope runs straight into the arms of a woman who must be her mother. They're both crying, but it's the kind of crying that comes with relief rather than grief. As I load my gear back into my Jeep, the little girl breaks away from her mother and runs toward me. Before I can react, she wraps her arms around my leg and holds on tight. "Thank you," she whispers into my tactical vest. I look down at her 6 years old, wearing a Disney princess t-shirt, still shaking from whatever she witnessed inside that store. Her mother approaches, tears streaming down her face. "I don't know how to thank you," she says. Before I can respond, I notice the phones. Camera phones recording everything. Police body cameras, news crews already arriving on scene, civilians documenting the aftermath of something that will be replayed and analyzed and shared thousands of times before sunrise. The little girl is still holding onto my leg when I look directly into one of those cameras. This is the moment that changes everything. I'm awake at 5:30 a.m., 3 hours after finally getting home from the Walmart incident. Not because my alarm went off, but because my phone won't stop buzzing. Text messages, missed calls, social media notifications I never signed up for. I silence the phone and make coffee in the dark kitchen of my apartment, trying to process what happened 6 hours ago. The little girl's arms around my leg, the weight of the rifle, the clean mathematics of a 47-yard shot, the way everything went quiet for just a moment after the man dropped. My phone lights up again. This time, it's Captain Morrison. "Carter, you need to see the news." I flip on the television and scroll through channels until I find Channel 12's morning broadcast. The anchor, a polished woman in a red blazer, is speaking over footage. I recognize the Walmart parking lot, emergency vehicles, tactical officers moving with purpose. Overnight hostage situation that ended when a female soldier neutralized the armed suspect with a single shot. The dramatic rescue was captured on police body cameras and has been viewed more than 50,000 times since being posted to social media early this morning. The screen fills with footage from someone's cell phone, grainy, shaky, but clear enough to show me walking out of the office depot with my rifle slung over my shoulder. Clear enough to show the moment the little girl ran to me, the way I looked directly into the camera. The soldier has been identified as Staff Sergeant Alyssa Carter of the Virginia National Guard. According to witnesses, Carter was providing medical support when she volunteered to take the shot that ended the standoff. They're using my name, my full name and rank broadcast to anyone watching morning television in Central Virginia. The phone rings. Mom's number. "Alyssa." Her voice is strange, higher pitched than usual. "Are you watching the news?" "I'm watching." That's you on television." "Yes." Silence stretches between us. In the background, I can hear the television in their kitchen, the same broadcast I'm watching. I can picture her standing in front of the counter, probably still in her bathrobe, coffee cup forgotten in her hand. "You saved those people," she says finally. "I did my job." "Your job?" Her voice cracks slightly. "Alyssa, they're calling you a hero." I think about correcting her, about explaining that heroes are people who do extraordinary things while I just did what I was trained to do. But there's something in her tone I haven't heard in years, something that might be pride. "Is Dad watching?" Yes, he's right here." I hear the phone being passed, some muffled conversation I can't make out. "Alyssa?" Dad's voice is quiet, controlled. "We saw the news." And a long pause. Through the phone, I can hear the television anchor interviewing someone, a police official, talking about the professionalism displayed by all personnel involved. "That's our daughter," he whispers, and I'm not sure if he's talking to me or to Mom. "Yes," I say. "That's your daughter. The one who was supposed to quit in a week." The question hangs in the air between us. I could let it go, accept this moment of recognition, and move forward. But something in me, something that's been quiet for 31 years, decides it's time to speak. The same one you said was too soft for the army. The one who would fold in 3 days. The one whose uniform you laughed at. Silence. Alyssa. I have to go, I say. People are calling. I hang up and turn my attention back to the television. The story has moved to an interview with Police Captain Williams, who's describing the tactical situation and the exceptional marksmanship that ended the standoff. My phone buzzes with another text message. This one from Jake. Holy shit, Alyssa. Just saw the news. Call me. Then another from Rebecca. OMG, is this real? You're all over Facebook. People are sharing the video everywhere. I set the phone aside and finish my coffee in silence, watching strangers on television discuss my life with the authority of people who were nowhere near that Walmart parking lot. The anchor is wrapping up the segment. Staff Sergeant Carter declined our request for an interview, but according to her commanding officer, she's returned to regular duties and considers last night's events part of her normal responsibilities as a National Guard soldier. Normal responsibilities. As if precision shooting through a second-story window to save 12 hostages is just another Tuesday night. My phone buzzes one more time. A text from Staff Sergeant Reed, my old drill instructor from basic training. Saw the news, told you that you had quiet hands, Carter. Proud of you. I save that message and delete the rest. Outside my apartment window, Richmond is waking up to a normal Wednesday morning. People heading to work, kids waiting for school buses. The ordinary rhythm of a city where most people will never know what it feels like to look through a rifle scope and make a decision that determines who lives and who dies. But somewhere in that city, a 6-year-old girl is eating breakfast with her mother instead of becoming a statistic. That's the only review that matters. By noon, my phone shows 47 missed calls and 83 text messages. Most are from numbers I don't recognize, reporters, colleagues from the hospital where I used to work, high school classmates who suddenly remember my name. But 15 of those calls are from home. I scroll through the messages while eating a sandwich at my kitchen counter. The television muted but still showing news coverage. The story has legs. Local news picked up by regional networks, then shared across social media until it's trending in 3 states. Jake's message came in at 7:23 a.m. Alyssa, call me back. We're all so proud of you. You've always had it in you even when we couldn't see it. This is incredible. Always had it in me. As if the person who sent me YouTube videos of military failures somehow knew all along that I was capable of this. Mom's message is longer, sent 20 minutes later. Sweetheart, I've been watching the news all morning. I can't stop crying. I'm so sorry we doubted you. I'm sorry we didn't believe in what you were doing. Please call me. Please come home so we can celebrate properly. We want to make this right. Make this right. As if 31 years of being invisible can be corrected with a phone call and a celebratory dinner. Rebecca's contribution arrived at 8:45 a.m. OMG, Alyssa. I can't believe my sister is famous. So proud to be related to you. Posted about it on all my socials. You're getting so much love. Call me. Posted about it on all her socials. I open Facebook and find what she's talking about, a photo of us from last Christmas. Me barely visible in the background while she poses in the foreground. The caption reads, "So proud of my badass sister, Staff Sergeant Alyssa Carter, who saved 12 people last night. She's always been the strong one in our family. Proud sister. Her hero, sets my family." 347 likes and counting. Comments from people who've never met me congratulating Rebecca on having such an amazing sister. She's responding to every single one, basking in reflected glory, like she's been my biggest supporter all along, the strong one in our family. The same person who posted an Instagram story about my late life crisis when I enlisted. Dad's message is the shortest. Saw the news. We need to talk. Come home for dinner tonight. We have things to say. We have things to say. Now. After I've proven myself on national television, after strangers are calling me a hero, after I've done something they can't diminish or ignore. I open a new message and start typing. You didn't believe in me? You erased me from my own room, forgot where I was deployed, called it that army thing, like it was a hobby I'd grow out of. You needed me to fail to prove that the quiet girl should stay quiet. I don't need your applause now. I already have what I came for. My thumb hovers over the send button. Everything I've wanted to say for 31 years distilled into a few sentences. The truth about how they treated me, about what their doubt cost both of us. About the fact that I found my strength in spite of them, not because of them. I could send it. Let them sit with the reality of what they missed, what they dismissed, what they'll never get back. Instead, I delete the message. Not because they don't deserve to hear it. Not because I'm still the quiet girl who keeps the peace at any cost. But because sending it would mean I still need something from them. Acknowledgement, apology, understanding. And I don't. The person who needed their approval died in a Walmart parking lot at 11:47 p.m. last night. The person who took that shot, who walked out of the Office Depot with steady hands and clear eyes, who looked into those cameras without flinching, that person doesn't require their validation. My phone rings. Mom's number again. I let it go to voicemail. The doorbell rings 20 minutes later. Through the peephole, I see Jake standing on my front step in his police uniform, probably between shifts. He's holding a bouquet of flowers that looks like he grabbed it from the grocery store on his way over. I don't open the door. "Alyssa, I know you're in there," he calls. "Your Jeep's in the driveway. Look, we just want to talk. We want to tell you how proud we are." Proud. The word they withheld when I graduated nursing school, when I survived basic training. When I qualified for specialized programs, they never bothered to ask about. Now it comes freely broadcast through my front door for the neighbors to hear. "We messed up," Jake continues. "We didn't see what you were becoming, but we see it now. The whole world sees it now." The whole world. That's what it took. Viral videos and news coverage and strangers on the internet calling me a hero for my own family to see what was right in front of them. After 10 minutes, he gives up and leaves the flowers on my doorstep. That evening, I drive to the National Guard Armory for a scheduled training session. Normal routine, normal duties. The same gymnasium where I've spent countless evenings maintaining equipment and reviewing protocols. But tonight, something's different. The other soldiers look at me with expressions I haven't seen before, respect that isn't qualified by my age or gender, attention that isn't mixed with doubt. Sergeant Martinez's shoulder, still bandaged from the ricochet that took him out of the sniper position, approaches me during equipment check. "Hell of a shot, Carter," he says simply. "Just did the job." "No," he shakes his head. "You did more than that. You stepped up when it mattered. That's what counts." After training, I sit in my Jeep in the Armory parking lot and check my phone. 16 new messages from family members, including one from an aunt in North Carolina I haven't spoken to in 5 years. I delete them all without reading them. Tomorrow there will be more calls, more messages, more attempts to retroactively claim a piece of something they had no part in building. There might be interview requests, ceremony invitations, opportunities to turn last night's events into something bigger than they were. I start the engine and drive home through Richmond's quiet streets, past the Walmart, where it all happened, past the Office Depot, where I learned what I was really made of. My phone lights up with another call from home. This time, I turn it off entirely. The silence feels like victory. 6 months after the Walmart incident, I decline my 14th interview request. This one's from a national morning show that wants to do a segment on unlikely heroes. The producer's email includes phrases like "inspiring story" and "perfect for our Female Empowerment Month." I delete it without responding, the same way I've handled every other request since that night. The media attention lasted about 3 weeks. Long enough for the story to get picked up by bigger outlets, for my name to trend on social media, for strangers to debate whether I deserved the Medal of Valor the governor eventually presented in a quiet ceremony I attended in dress uniform, but didn't speak at. Then it faded the way all news stories do, replaced by the next crisis, the next hero, the next viral moment that captures everyone's attention until something else comes along. I was grateful for the silence. The nonprofit started small. Just me in a borrowed classroom at the community college teaching basic marksmanship to women veterans who'd never had the opportunity for advanced training. Word spread quietly through VA support groups and online forums, where women shared stories about coming home to a world that didn't know what to do with their skills. Within 3 months, I had a waiting list. Now we operate out of a converted warehouse in South Richmond, complete with an indoor range classroom space and a small office where I keep files on every woman who's walked through our doors. The sign above the entrance reads, "Steady Hands Foundation," in simple black letters. No fanfare, no self-promotion, just a place where women can learn to trust their own aim. The program has 2 parts, marksmanship training for those who want it and what I call mental resilience workshops for everyone. We talk about target fixation, how focusing on what you don't want to hit guarantees you'll hit it. We practice breathing techniques that work for rifle shooting and anxiety attacks. We learn about the space between identifying a threat and taking action, and how to use that space to make better decisions. My only rule is simple: no one speaks over another woman. The women who come to us have stories. Army mechanics who were told they weren't strong enough for combat roles. Navy veterans who qualified expert on the range, but never got to use their skills. Survivors of domestic violence who want to feel powerful instead of afraid. Single mothers who work 2 jobs and want to know they can protect their families if they need to. I don't ask for their stories. They share them when they're ready. Today I'm working with Sarah, a former Air Force communications specialist, who's been coming to the range for 2 months. She served 4 years, got out, and spent the last 3 working as a dispatcher for a trucking company. Quiet woman, steady hands, excellent instincts once she stops second-guessing herself. "Why do you think I keep pulling left?" she asks, studying her target through binoculars. "You're anticipating recoil," I tell her. "Trying to correct for something that hasn't happened yet instead of trusting your initial aim." She nods and settles back into position. This time her shots group tight and center. Better in much. As we're packing up equipment, she asks the question I've been expecting for weeks. "Can I ask why you left the military? I mean, after everything that happened, the recognition you got, seems like you could have had a real career." I finish coiling the spotting scope cable before I answer. It's not the first time someone's asked, and it won't be the last. "Because I'd already won the battle," I say. "The one where I stopped needing anyone to believe in me but myself." Sarah tilts her head, waiting for more explanation. "For 31 years, I lived in spaces where other people decided my worth. Family hospital administration, even the military to some extent. I was always trying to prove I belonged, prove I was strong enough, prove I deserved to be taken seriously." I lock the equipment case and turn to face her. That night at Walmart, I stopped proving and started being. The shot I took wasn't about validation or recognition or showing anyone what I was capable of. It was about 12 people who needed help, and I was the person in position to provide it. We walked toward the exit, our footsteps echoing in the empty warehouse. The media attention afterward, the ceremonies, the interview requests, all of that was about turning me back into a symbol for other people's agendas. Military recruitment, female empowerment, political talking points. I didn't save those hostages to become anyone's poster child. Sarah nods slowly. "So you walked away." I walked toward something better. This place these women work that matters without requiring applause. At the front door, I pause with my hand on the light switch. The military taught me to shoot, but it took leaving the military to learn who I was aiming at. Sarah smiles. "Same time next week. I'll be here." After she leaves, I lock up and walk to my Jeep in the parking lot. My phone shows 3 missed calls from Mom, 2 from Rebecca, and a text from Jake asking if I'm coming to Dad's birthday dinner next month. I don't answer any of them. Not out of spite or lingering anger, but because I don't need to. The relationship between us is what it's always been, a series of expectations I no longer feel obligated to meet. They want the version of me that fits their narrative, the prodigal daughter who came home victorious, ready to take her place at the family table as the success story they always knew I could be. But that person doesn't exist. The person who exists drives home to a quiet apartment, makes dinner for one, and falls asleep, knowing that tomorrow she'll help another woman discover that her aim is truer than she believes. The person who exists no longer needs permission to take up space in the world. As I pull out of the parking lot, I pass the billboard that went up last month, advertising the newest military recruitment campaign. It features a young woman in dress uniform looking determined and patriotic under text that reads, "Be all you can be." I keep driving. I already am.